I think we are online, I believe. Let me check that this is the case.
Yes.
We'll just wait for a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Are we online?
Just waiting on confirmation if we are online.
Then we can get started.
Mm-hmm.
How are you, Aykut? What's the weather like in Izmir? No, sorry, not Izmir. You're in Antalya, Turkey. So what's the weather like?
It's good. It's still treating us well with sunshine. It's 28 degrees. It's still like summer here. And how is it there, Levent? How is it in the UK? Chancellor?
Good. It's a very sunny day in Essex, UK. Yeah,
Very
it's
good.
lovely. I believe we are live, and so let's get started.
Great.
Welcome, everyone. We'll be talking about is machine translation for you. This is it's kind of scratching the surface event because there's so much to talk about machine translations. We'll get started. We'll see what is the benefits for a small to medium small to medium businesses point of view. Large companies, as Aykut will tell us, large companies are already using it. So what is that? Is it too far reach from a small business's point of view? What are the pros and cons? And for anyone that hasn't joined one of our LinkedIn events before, my name is Levent Yildizgoren. I am the co-founder of TTC wetranslate. And here with me today is Aykut Yatar. Aykut, can you tell us who you are, please?
Yes, of course. Hello, this is Aykut, and I am looking after the operations in TTC. And we are excited to talk to our friends, our partners about anything that we learn, and we like sharing it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is very much like getting accustomed to talking about this because it was until recently it wasn't mainstream. Now, machine translation is mainstream.
Yeah,
and it's best that we join the conversations and see what kind of benefits it can provide to our clients or small to medium-sized businesses who are looking to get their message and content into other languages.
Yeah.
So I could tell us, let's get started with, what is machine translation?
Yeah. Basically, so I mean, you are saying machine translation. What it is important to understand. Firstly, actually, to understand it, we need to be able to put it into simple terms. So I think machine translation is translating. I mean, you will see very similar explanations on online as well. Getting one language into another language without human involvement. So that's basically machine translation.
Yeah.
How it is done is with artificial intelligence, with computer softwares, with a lot of coding in the background, and years and years of basically research until since it. I mean, it's been. Yeah. Okay. So
okay, I just started recording.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. No, that's all right. So as Levent said, you're right, Levent. It's been going on for many years now. Like
20 years to be precise.
Yeah.
Machine translation. I mean, Google had started it 20 years ago, and it was quite a sort of, we were amusing ourselves with the mistakes that Google Translate will do, and it was like quite a few, and now. But that's 20 years on, and now it came to a stage that, yes, it is mainstream, and it's not just Google Translate. There are so many other options, as I'm sure we'll be mentioning them in a few minutes' time. Yes, sorry, I kind of interrupted you, Aykut.
No, that's very good. That's very good addition to what I'm saying, actually. So as you said, I mean, 20 years ago, Google started it. Actually, that brings us to what we can mention a bit more to understand machine translation a bit further. What type of machine translation are there? Because usually what we know is the first thing comes to mind, Google Translate. And Microsoft Translate. So there are very big names, and there's a lot of man-hour going behind those, trying to develop them even further. But how it started was a kind of like a joke point, and it wasn't so good. So that's why we say, is it translated by machines? What's that? So, but it's not anymore the case. But there's a good reason why it is not, because the types of machine translations out there are, they started with, as someone can imagine, so there's A language, there is B language, and there are rules to those languages. There are dictionaries, and they have their own syntax. So basically, the computer engineers, they started matching those languages. They said, okay, word to word, syntax to syntax, somehow we need to get them to communicate. And that's why the first type of machine translation we can say is rule-based machine translation. And that deals with mainly with the rules in the language. Thus, it translates word to word mostly, and it doesn't quite,
quite hit the spot. I mean,
yes.
if I can just add that.
Yes.
So about 7-8 years ago, many people were complaining to TripAdvisor because they were writing reviews in English, and you know, when they come across their reviews in another language, so these are the people who are bilingual. So they were reading their review. As I read once, somebody Norwegian, he was saying that, look, you know, I don't make this type of mistakes. So please correct this. Otherwise, I will not write any more reviews for TripAdvisor. Somebody else was saying that, look, I'm a French speaker, but I've written this review in English, and it sounds ridiculous in French. So please take it away. And so that was 7 years ago. They were getting kind of a user backlash because the content was somehow, you know, the guy was saying in his review, we left the hotel on the state, and the machine translation was, because left, the word left was translated into Norwegian equivalent of direction left, not leaving a place. So he was saying, that doesn't make any sense. You know, I don't write reviews like that. So yes, that was 7 years ago. But as you say, it has developed now. It's becoming mainstream, and for the right purposes, it should be used. Or should it? I mean, let's sort of dig a bit deeper into that.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously, because of those reasons, definitely because of the feedback from the people, and also obviously seeing that it is not enough. So the challenges were, as you described very nicely, the machine on that rule, it didn't understand the context, so it couldn't be sure if it is direction left or if it is leave left. It didn't work that way. So there needs to be a further development. So SMTs emerge. So that is statistical machine translation engines, and statisticals needed a lot of data, a lot of input, millions of words. I think starting from 2 million at least. You need to feed them data that is existing human translations, good translations. You put them in there, and then machine now has more of a sentence by sentence, phrase by phrase comparison rather than word by word, so that it has now more contextual understanding. Thus, with the statistics that it has now, it could compare and see, okay, this matches, this translation entry matches with this source document or this source sentence better, so I'll match that. So it gave us a better result, and most of the engines jumped into this way, and they developed and gave us better results. Actually, statistical, I think it sounds like, from what I've been reading, sounds like a very good development from rule-based.
It was quite a major step forward.
Yes.
From the first one you said was phrase-based, so it was almost like word for word. Then it moved on to statistical based. Yeah, excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, of course, there's still challenges with statistical engines, because what happens is, one, there's lots of cost involved creating these engines, because you need to have very good systems in place, and the memories in place, bilingual corpora to feed them, and to develop certain engines, for example, for certain domains, for medical, for legal. And the lesser, it is better, I think, in this type of engines, because then you have more specific engines at hand, and you feed them specific information. That's why it is giving you more relevant output when you put a new text to be translated by the machine. So that was more suitable to use, and it's, I think, brought some kind of pace to the machine translation talks and all the developments, and more companies, I think, emerged and started doing statistical machine translation engines.
Right.
But of course, I mean, nothing stops somewhere, with the developments. We had to continue, and at the moment, what most companies are using, the machine translation providers using, are neural machine translation, because there is the artificial intelligence involvement more and more in that, and there is deep learning. So what happens is, these engines learn from the inputs, from the corrections. So you correct something in the engine when you post-edit it, for example, and then it learns from it. Next time, it does a better job. So why not invest in that? And then in the future, so every time you do a job, there will be a better result.
So from what I understand, any developments in tech, like artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep machine learning, has somehow seems to have reflected in development of machine translations.
Yeah, that's quite right. Yeah. What I see from, for example, there is this research section of Google. So you can see some examples in there as well, anyone listening. So they have AI.Google blog, also like research Google departments. So they release blogs from time to time, and they give some like very good examples, saying that, actually I can drop a link after our conversation.
Yeah, please do.
For anyone to check out. And also they give some very good examples, and they explain how they went from rule-based to statistical to neural. Definitely the developments happening in the artificial intelligence and the learning, the deep learning and artificial learning side, is affecting the translations. And they never say, okay, let's put translations aside for a minute and focus on artificial intelligence. It's always going hand in hand. It's very relevant.
Interesting. It seems the developments are taking place at such a pace, such a high pace, because of the other developments in artificial intelligence. And that's probably, would you say that that's what is making machine translations a more of a mainstream than just some exotic product that people use now and then?
Yes, I think so. Because also, as people, we believe when we see something, and I saw in the last years more and more translators that we have been working with. We've been working with some amazing translators, great people you meet in the industry. And of course, as humans, we think, okay, what can translate? I mean, I'm a translator as well. What machine can translate as good as I? So that was the case, like, say, 10 years ago. No good results are there. But then last years, I'm checking and I'm seeing, wow, okay, that's not bad at all. The results are not bad. So the translators are thinking the same things. The people who are thinking, okay, machines cannot call up and then post-editing is time-consuming. But the aim is to make the post-editing as less time-consuming as possible, each year, each month, so that there will be a faster and more affordable accessibility for the companies to use the languages more.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when machine translations questions come, when people talking about this, as people from the language industry, as translators, there's a emotional response that we are sort of, I mean, I'll admit easily that yes, we are worried that talking about machine translations. Will machines replace us? Are we going to be run out of work because of the machines? Now, what is happening in the past couple of years shown us that actually that's not the case. Machine translations have a place. Human professional translators have another place. And what's important is that clients benefit from both. And you mentioned something about machine translations post-editing. And do you want to jump into that one, or is there any more you want to mention about the what is it called now? NMT, neural machine translations?
Yeah. Maybe we can say a bit more about. I mean, so we mentioned about what is machine translation and what types are there, but are there any advantages? Are there any disadvantages? Pros, cons? If anyone listening to us, if you want to learn about these more, you can just mention few points. I mean, why anyone should use machine translation. What could be the reason behind that? That's the cost. So it is cheaper, more affordable than the human translation. That can be one very good reason. And another reason can be that it is very fast. So you can get almost immediate, considering if you have required prerequisites that I will actually mention a bit about those two, because they are quite important that we usually overlook or don't think about much. So if you have the necessary baseline, it is quite fast. You just put it in there and then get the result from the machine. So speed and cost, two major reasons. But also the machine translation helps get a starting point for humans, human translation. So that can be another good reason.
Interrupt you there? Just one yes. Important point, just for in case somebody just joined in and listening or watching the conversation.
Yes.
Now we are talking about machine translation being fast and cheaper, but there's one important aspect of the variety of platforms being available. So if there is a confidentiality issue, then an automatic translation tool such as Google Translate may not be the ideal solution, because obviously there's no confidentiality. There's no, if somebody signed an NDA, this is like non-disclosure agreement, to translate the document, and they put the content into machine translation, that kind of defeats, and it's not like the quality is they are legally be in deep trouble. So I just thought I mentioned this because there are various models out there, and the important thing is using the right model for the right purpose within the framework agreed. So from the translation service provider's point of view, we have no problem using machine translation as long as we agree with the client, the terms and conditions and everything that go with it. But I just thought I mentioned that part because I've heard, I can't name the company, but one of the large financial companies that was going back a few years ago, they were using Google Translate. And they were putting all this financial data, important data in Google Translate. It's lovely. We're learning. And then there was a serious backlash because somebody realized that, hold on, guys, you're putting all this confidential data that people, this was an investment bank.
Wow.
And can you imagine the problem they were facing? So I don't know what was the remediations for them, but they are not. I know that they are not using it anymore that way. So yeah, I just thought I mentioned that part. But yeah, please continue with the aspect of the availability, speed, and whatever else you're going to tell us.
That's a very good reminder, and it is definitely so relevant. The confidentiality, and basically we want to say we are not expert definitely in this topic. What we are doing is we are learning, researching,
Learning ourselves. Yeah,
definitely trying to catch up with the age and what new things happening. What are developments that we can use now to bring a better solution in the projects that we are doing for our clients. So that's the thing. And definitely, unless we agree with our clients, with our providers, we don't use machine translation. And actually, this is what ISO wants to. Because we are an ISO certified company, we need to tell you the exact service level that you are getting from us. That's something that you can definitely demand anyone who you are working with, because you can say, what's the service level I am getting? What for this money? What am I getting? So is it one human translator going to work on your document and deliver in the same format to you? Is it one translator plus one human reviser? Is it machine translator and only that? Or is it machine translation plus another translator? So there are lots of things, and all of them or either of them can be relevant for you. But the perfect thing to happen is either you know exactly what you need, or you just talk to the service provider, the translation company that you are working with. What do I need? I want to achieve this. From which path, if I go, do I achieve it with best value?
Yeah.
So that's where we can come in. Yeah.
That's really important. So what we are saying, I keep hearing this whenever I listen to a YouTube video. They say this is not a financial advice. They keep saying this. So we are not advising anyone to use machine translation. We are just saying that, look, there are the options available, and if you need to use machine translations, depending on the context, and read the small print. So if you're going to use likes of Google Translate, read the small print. Are you legally bound by anything? Is there confidentiality? Mm-hmm. And now this may sound like a product placement, but if you have a language service provider such as you, TTCV Translate, and you're saying that we are ISO certified for machine translation post-editing, we are bound by certain criteria. So we have to tell the client exactly what they are getting. So if you have a provider and they are ISO certified, talk to them. So we are not suggesting that you should just upload stuff to the whatever tool out there and get it translated. We are not recommending that to anyone. So this is a kind of from legal liability point of view, and speed, quality, cost, confidentiality, these are all need to be taken into account. Aykut, on that respect, have you done, are you able to give us a couple of examples of how you helped a client by offering machine translation? That might be interesting. And by the way, if anyone listening has a question or comment, please put it in the comment box, and we'll do our best to reply. We are not saying, like Aykut said, we are not claiming to be machine translation gurus. We are learning. There's a lot to learn, but this is something that we are learning. We are ISO certified, and we want to do more developments on this. So if you have any questions, please put it on the comment box. We'll do our best to answer it.
Yes, definitely. We'll do our best. As an example, actually, I remember a recent one in which we were working with a television company that I cannot name, and they're a quite nice, good, big television company that we do translation projects with. And in this occurrence, they needed a legal contract for a television show, a quite popular one. And that contract had to be translated into one of the European languages, English. So what happened is they said, okay, we have this contract. I think it was 4,000 words or something. So that's quite a lot. In human translation, it would take 2 days, and we need to put a quality assurance stage and see if it is all good. So 2.5 days, you can say. Though, what happens is they need it in the same day, in the next few hours.
All right.
So that's quite impossible to meet the
deadline. It's a nice challenge for you.
Yes. So I immediately said, because it's legal, and are you going to sign it? What's going to happen? So we are trying to understand what are you going to use? Because yes, the purpose of translation is very important. If you are going to sign it, put it into action, then it is best to speak with your translation provider, ideally weeks ago. The moment you know, just tell your translation provider so that they can be prepared and they can say, okay, send me, if it is possible, send me it 2 days ago. I'll human translate it very nicely. But in this case, the client didn't have that time. But also, they didn't need to sign it yet. They said, it is just for their information, because it was in Italian. They said, we want to understand in Turkish, but we don't want to use the free tools, publicly available tools, because it is confidential.
So they were wise. They were wise not to use the freely available tools, because it's a legal document, basically.
Definitely. So I said, okay, that's exactly what we can do, because we have professional tools that are integrated into the systems that we are working with, and they are confidential, and they are proving better results than the publicly available tools, because there are very different tools, machine translation engines that you can choose for different topics, different language combinations, which perform better. So there is no one size fits all solution out there. So they said, okay, let's just do it. They just wanted that. So we did that. We sent it to them. It was cost efficient. And also it was very fast. That's what they needed.
Fit for purpose. Yeah.
So they said, okay, we are very surprised. We liked it. And then, that was all.
No, that's great. I mean, one example that was publicly available that I came across, we weren't involved in this project, but it's publicly available. Subway, the Subway food company, they had 3 projects translated by machine translation. I'm sure they must have added quality aspects of it, because the person who's managing the localization, so it must, I'm 100% sure that it was fit for purpose. But there was 3 projects that one is like 700 knowledge base articles into 4 languages. There was a franchise sales website, 500,000 words that required in 2 weeks deadline. And there was some e-learning platform translations. So large companies are already, using machine translations to their full benefit. Now, apparently they saved $1.5 million and 2 years' time. So it's not just the cost; it is time to entry to market. If they're selling their franchises and it takes them 6 months to translate franchises, they are losing business. So it's not just amount of money they are saving, it is also the competitive edge. And as I mentioned earlier, TripAdvisor is fully using it. Amazon is one of the main providers. So any reviews that I want to read in Amazon by a review from another country, speaker from another country, I can read this. Facebook is, as we know,
that's a very good
Facebook's
example.
Growth is a great example. I love that. Facebook's becoming going over the billion user mark was because of the languages. If they had not added those languages, Facebook wouldn't be what it is today. And so that was our whole interest in this putting this subject on LinkedIn event, so that small to medium-sized businesses can actually start thinking about this and start using it. And from the example that you mentioned, a company that probably never heard of or never thought of that will be available to them, they had the benefit of using machine translation. So that's the essence of our conversation. Any comments, any questions, please come back to us. And what is important is, again, we are not recommending, I have to underline this, we are not recommending people to put their stuff into a platform without reading the small print, or relying that it will work perfectly because it worked for Subway. Mm-hmm. It worked for Subway because they, if you read the case study, which is available in public domain, you can see that there was a lot of quality assurance procedures in place. So it wasn't a coincidence. It was a totally structured approach that enabled them to successfully deliver fit-for-purpose translation. So it's not to be taken lightly, but it is within. Would you agree that it is within reach of any small to medium-sized business? What I mean is using machine translations for their content.
Yeah, definitely. If I had read that case study, what Subway did a few years ago, I might have felt a bit more overwhelmed. And wow, millions of words in this time frame. How did they achieve this? But now I read it, and I felt, okay, it makes sense what they did, because they, as you said, approached it in such a nicely structured way. They used the relevant text to create a very relevant machine. And when they put the new text to translate, they knew that the results will be usable. It will be good because they did tests. They knew what data they put in, so that what output they will achieve. So there are lots of technical things and preparation. The preparation side is very important. So actually that shows the added value that someone, a company, a translation provider can bring to the table when saving you costs actually. So that's a lot of work that going on in the background, trying to cut the costs that might seem like a barrier to us growing our company, isn't it? So everyone wants to grow. Definitely, that's something that in the business world you want to do. You want to grow your company, achieve new heights, target more countries, and if a cost is too high, you are trying alternative solutions. But alternative solutions need to be considered carefully, not to harm your brand in the way of
absolutely
saving the costs. And now that we are happy to say, as you said, it is accessible. There are ways to achieve that, not just publicly available ones, but also the ones that you can talk to your trusted translation company and come up with a solution of what you are doing. You can, maybe you are doing a technical thing, a manufacturing or a legal. So for both these subjects, it can be a bit, I won't say harder. In the opposite, it can be maybe easier, because the language used in those subject matters are more set. And when you have set terms, glossaries, and language structures, and if there are set language combinations that you are using, especially if the syntax are similar, the languages are not quite different, like English and Chinese, the word order quite the opposite. Well, there are solutions for that as well too, but what I'm saying is it can be easier to create a solution for your business and then save costs like 30%, starting from 30% to going forward like 70% even, depending on the purpose of your use.
Yeah, no, thank you, Aykut. I appreciate that. Should, with all these developments, should professional translators be worried? Because that could be professional translators working full time, should they be worried, in your opinion?
My thinking, my thinking, normal translation from scratch, it takes time. So 2,000 words, 3,000 words, how many words you can do a word? So you're translating something, and you, as a freelance professional translator, receiving jobs. But with post-editing, what happens is it sits between, we can say, revision. At the moment, I think it will improve, but between revision and translation time. So you are saving almost, you're doubling the amount of work you can you can output in a day. So what happens is you can get more work and you can complete more work in a day. I'm thinking that clients will save some costs and they will get faster turnarounds
and more stuff done.
So I think they will give more job. They will say, okay, translations are not that expensive. I will get more things translated. And if they see their results, they get more work. They send you more translations. So that benefits everyone actually.
No, I totally agree, because big data, what is being translated of big data is just like a tip of the iceberg. Some say that it's not even tip of the iceberg. So the content produced and there's waiting in English language is trillions of words, and no translators in the world, even if they translate 24 hours a day, they can't translate it. This is virtually impossible. So what you're saying is totally resonates with me, is that if customers benefit more from translations, they'll get more translations done. Because let's be frank, for a business executive's point of view, translation is about return on investment. If they see a return on investment, they'll do more. That's how our key accounts are working, key customers are working. They get something translated into 5 languages, and then they get encouraged and say, we'll add 5 more languages. Why? Because we're doing this testing device for automotives, and Indonesian market is like humongous. So let's try, Malay language or Indonesian Malay. And then they see the return on investment. So they say, let's add another language, another. That's how some of our clients translate into 22, 27 languages. And so it's all about return on investment. And if they do more, translators earn more, okay? They may not charge the word rate differently, but the volume will be higher. So I agree that, and that's from what I heard from a number of translators that who does post-editing, that some even say that their income has increased because they are taking on post-editing, machine translation, post-editing jobs. So Aykut, it's been sort of nearly 40 minutes or so. Now, can you give us some examples of providers? And if anyone is curious, we are happy to provide them. So please mention it in the comment box. And can you mention some names of, okay, we know about Microsoft, we know about Google, but does Google have one solution or multiple solutions? Can you just tell us a few of the names so that we get some familiarity?
Yes, definitely. So actually, after the webinar as well, we can provide some publicly available engines, because usually our hand goes to Google Translate, the free, normal one. We say translate and then get this. But very similar to that, there is 4 more. So we can say like 5 in total links that are free links that I can drop after the meeting, that you can just click and put your text and translate, as long as you are 100% sure it is not confidential and your aim is to just get the information, gisting there. So
it's not a recommendation, it's not a legal advice.
yeah, definitely. So we got the usual Google free publicly available translation tool, Google Translate. But also, as I mentioned, Google does the neural side of things. So Google has a Google ML, and Google also have a Google Translation Hub. So these all, why there are different names, different parts that Google doing for just translations is the purpose. As we said, the purpose is very important. If you want to just get the idea, use the Google Translate, publicly available, free. If you want to achieve something else, like integrate your business, your website with something, and there is some cost involved, of course, because there is the maintenance in the background for Google or any engine. So they offer some packages with the Google AutoML translation, Google Translation Hub. You can search them in the web and see what's the offering in there. Although there is not just them, of course, there is very old companies in the system like Systram. They go back way back from 2000s. Even they started from there. I think they are quoted as the first commercial machine translation engine. Again, they provide a free online page as well that you can put your text and see in the other language. There's the Microsoft. There is more modern solutions like Modern MT, and there's, for example, DeepL. When you search for machine translation, you should be able to already come across those, and those names are good names. They are industry leaders, and I'm sure I'm missing out on stuff, and there is more, definitely. So what happens is there is a lot of research going on behind the engineer teams of those names. Also, language industry is very active, and they are actively investigating how the quality is improving, and there are surveys taking in place. There's a very good research company in language industry. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name or not. I think I can say NIMSI. They do research and surveys, and they share some statistics. It's quite good, and generally speaking, I can say the translators, as I mentioned, that translators think the quality is improving, and these engines can be used now with more confidence. So yeah, you can mention these names. And
thank you. So what we are trying to say is, if you have content that you're holding back to get to other languages, even though you've got customers or potential customers requiring them, but you're holding back because of the cost, then machine translation may be a viable way to go. If you're not sure, talk to us, talk to a reputable translation agency for advice, and read the small print, and then just don't hold back, and let's get that content out there in one of these ways. And I know we can talk about this until cows come home, but thank you very much, and we are hoping to do more of this type of conversations. And if there are any questions, please drop them in the comment box. If you can't answer them now, we'll answer them later. And I thoroughly enjoyed and learned more about machine translations. Thank you very much, Aykut.
Thank you very much, Levent. I definitely enjoyed our session as well. Maybe we can wait a few minutes if anyone has any questions.
Oh yes, absolutely. It's a great idea.
Yeah. In the meantime, maybe I can mention that if you are thinking, okay, we are talking about these solutions, and who are we, or what do you need us for? So that's all relevant when it comes to the purpose, again, what you want to achieve. And if you want to achieve something that is seriously good but cost effective, and don't know how to go there, or want to learn more about it, there's ISO in place. There's ISO 18587. So it's machine translation post editing. So you can do machine translation, you can do machine translation plus light post editing, or full post editing plus revision. Actually, even if you do machine translation plus full post editing plus revision, what you receive is you meet ISO 1700, which is human translation criteria.
It's a gold standard of translation, isn't it? 17100. Yeah. No, it's very interesting, very interesting. So really, for business executives, it is looking into options, talking to people, researching. For freelance translators, keeping an open mind, working with reputable companies, and sort of not looking at this very emotionally, but more like from a logical point of view, and keeping our customers' benefit at the foresight. So as long as we put our customers first, I think we find solutions much easier. So I could thank you very much for your time. There's no comments or questions, so we can close the session.
Great. Thank you very much, Levent. I enjoyed it very much.
Absolutely. All the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.